stage is set up, I would like to introduce our panelists. And I'll introduce the ladies first, and then they'll be sandwiched by the gentleman. So the first lady is Efua Techi Mills. Now, Efua Techi Mills is a results-driven certified project management professional with over 15 years of corporate experience in communications, marketing, and partnership engagement. Currently serving as the head of corporate affairs at GIPC, Efua plays a pivotal role in building and maintaining relevant partnerships and spearheading stakeholder engagements to improve the ease of doing business in Ghana. The organization and facilitation of targeted investment promotion initiatives, along with support for impactful communication campaigns, have significantly contributed to positioning GIPC as a leading government agency committed to impact, compliance, and collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our panelists, Efua Techi Mills, please. Our second panelist is in the person of Manuela Esianoa, and Manuela thrives on the dynamic changes her career in the IT and technology space brings. As an aspiring technology professional leader, she has had a ringside seat at some of the progressive multinational companies in Ghana. She started her career in Ericsson Ghana before joining Vodafone, and now with MTN Ghana. Over the period of her career, she has worked in finance, enterprise business, and HR departments. She is currently with the MTN's Capital Projects Group, managing IT projects. She holds a BSc in Computer Engineering from University of Ghana and an MSc in Business Decision Management from Coventry University. Manuela has a certificate in Applied Design Thinking from University of Virginia and is also a certified Agile PM practitioner and Scrum Master. Please, let's welcome Manuela in here. Our third panelist is Jack Ajete, and Jack is the founder and managing director of Reliance Fidelity International Group Limited, okay? And Trent Hill Consulting Limited, Ghana. He is high-performing management consultant, specializing in program and project management, continuous improvement, sustainability, security, risk business, continuity, and risk and crisis management. Much of Jack's early career was in the British Army, Armed Forces, as a combat engineer. Lately, he has worked as senior project program portfolio manager, program director, and management consultant, notably delivering several complex, high-value programs. Jack is a seasoned executive, and he engages with cross-sector senior-level stakeholders to provide a first-class, bespoke service that leverages strategic objectives. Jack is a Cranfield University alumni with an MSc in Subsea Engineering, and he also holds an MBA in Risk and Resilience from University of Scotland, and a BA Engineering, that is Bachelor of Engineering in Engineering Management from Greenwich University. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Jack Ajete on stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are warmly welcome to our panel discussion. So we have this topic that we are discussing is an experience sharing. We want the audience to benefit from your practical experience, not theory. So I would start with Manuela, since you happen to be on the right side. And I would want to find out from your side, what are some key metrics to measure organizational performance? Because we know performance can be measured in different ways. So if you can give us an overview of what you think are some of the metrics that organizations can use for performance.
Okay, thank you very much. So generally, when it comes to performance, organizations tend to measure them in two ways, either financial or operational. And with the financials, they're typically looking at revenue, return on investment, and profit margins. And I think William even touched on a couple of those for MTN. But when you're looking at the operational side, you're looking at employee satisfaction, for instance, time to market. And typical in our space, that's the Capital Projects Group, we're looking at project success rate, looking at deliverables versus the timelines that you have to execute. So these are some of the metrics.
Thank you very much for sharing. Let's have the same question answered by Jack as well.
Okay, thank you. I think I'll probably touch on sort of measurements, performance measurement in a strategic aspect. In the last decade or so, there's a lot of emphasis on sustainability. And I believe going forward, when it comes to performance management, organizations will tend to be managed from a sustainability perspective. And I work for a company called Trenthill, like you said. So we're a consultancy-based firm, so we provide services to our clients. And when we go into our clients' area to help them with, issues or delivering projects in their space, one of the key underpinning principles that we tend to work with them on is how they can measure their performance going forward with requirements that are coming up these days based on the industries they may be in. And as you know, project management is quite contextual. But with sustainability, you're guaranteed that all-round performance metric, be it financial, for companies in the high-risk, high-hazard, or high-consequence industries like oil and gas, energy, safety, for financial companies, money-making companies, you're looking at their financial position. But overall, all organizations, be it NGOs, non-for-profit, profit-making organizations, need to, one, remain economically relevant. They need positive economically relevance. So that is how people or your customers would measure your performance. The second aspect being your people. So having a pipeline of good people, strategically, having a pipeline of good people who would jump on your projects. And we've seen it, we've heard, I think, in Edwin's presentation where he mentioned using the same people he came to meet at BOST and developing them and bringing the best out of them. And I think if we're to, exercise agile behaviors, is to ensure that we've empowered our people. So we get measured as an organization going forward on how we're able to empower our people to deliver our customer objectives or our strategic commitments. The third aspect is where, when people hear sustainability, they actually think straight away, which is, supporting our environmental goals, etc. So I think especially in regulated industries, that have an environmental element to it, there's measurement in terms of performance on how we perform and comply, especially if they're under regulatory scrutiny, if they have regulators sort of watching what they do. And then the fourth aspect is how we impact our society and how people perceive us. And that is where the sort of social responsibility comes into mind. So in summary, what I'm saying about performance, measuring our performance as an organization going forward, the metrics people will be looking at would be looking at how we remain economically relevant in terms of that positive spin, how we actually maintain and develop our people, ensuring that we've got a pipeline of good people who can actually deliver and we empower them to deliver, to be truly agile, how we actually meet any environmental goals, UN SDGs, etc. And then, of course, how we affect our community from a social perspective.
Thank you very much for that as well. And let's go to Efua. Can you also provide insight from your side?
Yes, thank you for the question. To add to what my colleague said, of course, additional would be these metrics are to support the overall organizational effectiveness and to also support the project's ability to adhere to timelines and milestones. You have the budget performance in terms of what has been planned and what has been implemented. You have stakeholder satisfaction, how your stakeholders are satisfied with how you are implementing the project to their purpose, for the reason of their purpose. You have other metrics that have to do with your lessons learned, of course, from projects of similar natures that will impact future projects that will help to improve on learnings, improve on evolution of particular practices that are used. The mention has been made of Agile and other methods that will enhance future projects and their implementation.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. But I would want to come back to you again, Ifua, to answer one very important question for us. Now, that question has to do with what your institution, because we are coming from the government sector, right? So please tell us what your institution, as in GIPC, right? What you are actually using to measure performance.
Okay, so for GIPC, GIPC stands for the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. And GIPC is the premier or the primary investment promotion agency mandated by the government of Ghana to attract foreign direct investment into Ghana. Because of our mandate, we do a lot of work with stakeholders, local stakeholders, foreign stakeholders, and there are particular metrics that we use to guide our operations. Some of these stem from making sure that our planning is adept with KPIs, key performance indicators, which we do annually with all our departments and divisions and teams. We do a lot of teamwork and collaboration. We do a lot of financial performance reports monthly to Government of Ghana, Ministry of Finance, and the Presidency. We have metrics that have to deal with I mentioned earlier, stakeholder satisfaction, getting feedback from them every single time we engage them. We deal with them, foreign, local, various parties. Several of you come from some of the stakeholder groupings that we regularly engage. We have quarterly reports where we have measurement of the amount of FDI that is coming to Ghana across sectors around the whole country, whether companies are reinvesting their returns back into the economy, how they are being supported. So some of these areas help us measure our success rate, help us learn, and help us move forward to make sure that we are being guided accordingly to implement the projects successfully.
Thank you very much. The same question I would want to also ask Jack, how your organization actually is measuring performance. What are the key things that your organization uses to measure performance?
So again, obviously we're a consultancy organization, so we measure our performance as a gauge of how satisfied our customers are. All the services we provide are bespoke to our clients. It may be the same subject, but we get to know our clients inside out, and we adopt a project management methodology that allows us to ensure that we're not solutioning before we understand our customers' requirements, even if sometimes the answers are really obvious. So right at the start of the project, we understand, or the way in which we operate within everything we do, we understand our customers' requirements, our clients' requirements right from the off. And those are the metrics that we measure ourselves. We use metrics that are based on how satisfied our customers are, and also how we're
with regard to the knowledge sharing and the awards we have collected on various platforms. How this has helped us with regard to our performance, at the start of every project, you need to plan properly. If you have a very good project management principle or practice, this helps you to not just plan the project properly, you're able to plan the resources as well. When you're able to plan your resources properly, that means you're able to allocate these resources very effectively. And this has a snowball effect into how well the project performs.
And the main part that we touch on is the behaviors. So we truly empower all our staff because we're consultants, so you can be working alone in a client's organization and you need to really exercise, not just SME behavior, diplomacy, and you need to be a leader in the sense of the verb, so doing and being that leader. And you need to be truly empowered to do that. So adopting a project management methodology that allows us to be structured, be it Lean Six Sigma or indeed any other body of knowledge, ensures that we have those underpinning principles that empower us to be good leaders regardless of your role in the organization.
Thank you very much. I think enough has been said about performance. Let's go to agility. Let's talk a bit about agility. What makes an organization agile? Maybe Jack, you want to start?
So, okay, some people may disagree with me, but in my opinion and in my experience, I don't think I've ever seen a truly agile organization.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen a truly agile organization. I think, again, it boils down to behaviors. We can have an organization where you create your frameworks and you create an environment that allows us to be agile. Because in order for us to be agile, we need to have everything that we need to deliver the change within our control. So if we've got a bureaucratic waterfall methodology that is riddled with unnecessary due process until we have all those requirements that allow us to bring about the change in our control, we wouldn't be truly agile.
That's right.
And I think we can agree that to a degree, we need compliance. As long as we need those balances and checks, we need compliance. So I would say an organization can demonstrate that they're truly agile if the leadership, through all stages of the company or the organization, exhibit agile behaviors. That collaborative working spirit, leadership behaviors. And when I say leadership, not just people in leadership roles, but doing it as in leadership as a verb. So if you're an SME in your field and you're contributing towards a project by leading a work stream, it's having that conviction, knowing that you are the SME and what you say goes a long way to influence a project, and having that empowerment because you've been empowered by your superiors in your project management, etc., to actually go away and deliver it. So I'd say it's more around organizations having that agile, exercising that agile behavior, having behaviors within the company that support you to operate in an agile manner.
Thank you very much for sharing that insight. I think, Manuela, you want to come in?
So what makes an organization agile? Jack said he hasn't really seen an organization that is truly agile.
Okay.
To that I say, please see our field marshal. You know him as Mr. William Tete. And then the very handsome gentleman in the corner there, he's called Jonas. Yes. So I believe MTN is truly agile, and not because we are practicing we are using the Scrum framework or one framework or another. I think even from last year, one of the things that we took away was the fact that it's largely to do with the mindset and the culture. Fortunately, in MTN, we have an amazing CEO that doesn't just buy into the agile mindset and culture. He actually takes the step to ensure that his direct reports and cascading downwards, everybody is operating with the agile mindset. Anybody in MTN will tell you about
Madam Efua, what has your institution done possibly to become agile? But let's find out, is GIPC agile?
Remember that we are government.
I behaved as if I didn't know. Maybe you are, but I didn't know.
There's a but following that. I'll give you the example of BOSS, which we've all had a presentation, and it's a perfect example of what has worked and the possibility of when project management is applied appropriately and even agile methodologies, you gain success over a period. It's a model that many government agencies should follow, should adopt, and should learn from. And in fact, it should be a case study that we should actually talk about a lot more and have him as a key government representative showcase and given as an example to other government agencies that need that assistance, because typically government of Ghana is not flexible in the way they do. We don't adapt easily to changes. There isn't as much communication. But as GIPC, also as a government agency, there are a lot of things that we do within internally to promote agility. And some of the things have to do with collaboration and communication. It's something we do very well internally to make sure that we are flowing and making sure that our projects are executed within time, within budget, and have the impact that is desired. We do a lot of training, lots of employee empowerment, making sure that staff knows what they're about, they are able to be guided, they are able to own projects that they work on. We do a lot of meetings. Typically, government does a lot of meetings, some having results, others not. But within GIPC, we do a lot of internal engagements. Management does regular, every week. We have meetings, key meetings we have with our CEO. We have meetings as divisions. We have meetings as teams. And we have stand-up meetings a lot within projects constantly to make sure that what we're working on is actually being implemented, timed, making sure obstacles and challenges come to bear and are put forward for solution. We also do learnings and retrospectives because we need to learn what has worked, what we have to change, what we have to put back into the process so that things can be aligned appropriately to make sure the project is successful. So GIPC is actually unique within the government framework in the sense of how we adopt ourselves to make sure our projects are working.
Thank you very much. I think much has been said about agility, and because our audience would want to ask questions, I'll just ask the last question and then we would leave the other questions to the audience to ask, right? So what does the future look like if organizations adopt effective project management practices in their way of work? How does the future look like? Let me start with Manuela.
I would say peace and joy and goodwill to all men. Yes, because
the Messiah has arrived.
Yes, if we all adopt the agile mindset and culture, which is really what agility is about. With regard to performance and project management, you're looking at a very high success rate for all your projects if you adopt it properly. We're also looking at your ability to, as an organization, adapt to changes, be flexible and amenable to your customers' needs and demands, which will make them happy. And when your customers are happy, invariably you become happy. So peace and joy and goodwill to men, right? Also, you are looking at a very high overall customer satisfaction rate. And I don't mean just your external customers. Your internal customers, your employees as well, are going to be happy. And once they are happy, productivity increases, your retention also increases. And again, peace and joy and goodwill to all men. So yes, and the future looks very bright if organizations tend to adopt agile practices throughout with their execution.
Thank you very much for that insight. And Jack?
When an organization sets out with its vision, it needs to come up with a way of meeting that vision. Yeah. And the way to actually land at the vision is where your strategy comes in. So if we execute our strategies based on sound methodologies that allows us to plan and deliver work. And using project management methodologies can help us do that. Then I think we've got a good chance of landing our vision. And I think we've heard from some of the speakers today how doing that effectively has got us really good results and got us to places that we want to see our companies land at. I think in terms of throwing in an agility spin into that, our strategies and our plans to execute our strategies need to be quite robust and resilient. And that is where having a business continuity plan against the delivery of our strategy using sound project management methodologies would help us, because in a changing world, COVID has taught us we need to be ready to adapt. Exactly. We need to be ready to adapt to changes. And although our business continuity arrangements help us to prepare to deliver our strategic objectives in times of disruptions, a lot of the time it helps us understand how to adapt rather than to perfectly exercise a scenario which we would be faced with. No one expected COVID to have the impact it did. But I suppose all organizations who have developed the discipline of adapting to change stood a better chance to perform well and come out on the other side of it, still delivering the changes they asked to deliver. So in summary, I think if you adopt a sound project management discipline and methodology, one where the organization has empowered its people with a sound business continuity plan in mind, you've got a good chance of delivering your strategy to meet your vision.
Thank you very much. In fact, we would want to take that from Madam Efua, and then we would take questions from the audience.
You'd also, eventually, if all these things are worked in line, long-term stimulation of economic development, and that would be to all our benefits. When there is growth in that manner, you'd have investors more interested in investing. You'd have funding easily available, lower interest rates, because you have a track record. There is documentation to prove. You have all the factors in line that will support project completion, retention, and attraction for future benefits. So these are some of the areas that I think, if adopted, could be stimulated.
Thank you very much, panelists. Please, a round of applause for our panelists. You will agree with me that the discussion has been on driving organizational performance and agility with project management. Now, the floor is yours, our distinguished audience, to ask questions, and I would like to take questions from ladies first. Okay, there's a lady at the back, please. Can we have the mic delivered to her?
Hello, my name is Dali Kim. So my question is, obviously, agility is the way, and you'll agree with me that one of the finest minds in Ghana are people who work in the government sector. So what is making it so difficult for the government sector to fully embrace agility?
Thank you very much for your question, and I think this is going to Madam Efua because she is from government, a government institution. So please, can take it up.
All right. I think when Edwin was making his presentation, he spoke about something related to politics and how it influences project success and stakeholders as well. You have a lot of key stakeholders that are too close for comfort to enable project success rates be high. Stakeholder engagements is something government does all the time, regularly, to make sure they have buy-in from relevant third parties. But there's always, I really want to speak well because
you're on camera, right? You're on camera. Yes. You can start with a disclaimer.
But because I have to report to my boss, mind you.
Yes.
But yes, it's not impossible because it's been done before, and there's a perfect example to follow. It's something that is possible, and with the right will and way, one by one, government agencies can actually turn around. There's also a lot of bureaucratic practices that stagger processes that make things take forever, very long duration processes, and when you have human capital that is also not necessarily interested in the end game, it makes things very difficult for progress to be made. And agility requires that you are very comfortable with change, adapting to change and being very responsive, which will take some time for the whole government machinery to adopt. So not impossible, will take some time, would also be influenced by leadership, but we will get there at some point in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, I think Ken has a question here.
Part of the problem is us. How much has PMI been supporting people who run state institutions? How much support do we give? Unfortunately, we have a constitution that has made our president an Ebusiapeng. You know, he's put all the power in him, and then you have the political entrepreneurs who then decide who should go anywhere. So you have people who are running state institutions wanting to do the right things, and then you have people who are coming up against them. So we have it's the time that professional institutions like ours start supporting those like Edwin and Co, who are trying to push the right things being done, so that when they start doing these things, they know that somebody will come in support of them. It is definitely leadership that is important. Leadership is really important, and also running these institutions as if they are theirs. A lot of it's not because Edwin is here, but a lot of the state institutions will not dare to say they'll give 5 years bonuses to people who are performing. What they want to do, performance doesn't matter. I have been there, I'm working with a union, so because I've showed up, I ought to be paid. When we have people step up and wanting to do this, and they are chastised, what do we do as professional organizations? It's time for us to step up so that those who are advocating and pushing what ought to be done, we support them. Most of the time, we just sit back and then we want to criticize, but there's a lot of support that is required. If you see leadership percolate at the top in the public sector, you, the private sector people, don't even start thinking that you can compare. These are situations where they tie your hands behind your back and they expect you to run. So it's really important that when we come into forums like this, we do things that would ensure that those things are going to be done. And I'm hoping that we can take on the promise made by the minister. Get to the point where now we have these methodologies running the way projects are running. A lot of these projects that are failing is not because you don't have people there who want to do the right things, but it's because you have powerful stakeholders who do the negative. Where are the powerful stakeholders who would force us to do the positive things? Our voices need to be heard. And let's not just sit back and just complain, but how do we also try to see that we can support those who are doing the right things to ensure that the right things are done? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ken, for adding that. Rob? Okay. Yes, let's have another lady. Doctor?
Yes.
Is that Dr. Senna?
Yes, please.
Yes, Dr. Senna, please ask your question.
So my name is Senna, and Ken touched briefly on part of what I wanted to talk about. Okay. Now, when William made his submission towards the end, the last question that came from somewhere here, I can't remember who asked it, was along the lines of how is MTN able to complete all of its projects within the year, basically, and they don't carry forward, right? And I was hoping that part of the conversation at that point will go to scoping. Because if you scope a project that will take 5 years to complete, you can't finish within a year, right? And so how are we utilizing the skills we have such that we are actually being mindful of our constraints? And I'm very excited that our lady, that you have a design thinking background, right? So my thinking is, how might we, within the constraints that we have in the government sector, still be able to work to achieve the objectives that we want to achieve? So if there's will, if there's the good leadership, etc., we still need to put forth these skills to be able to define within our constraints, to be able to achieve and start transforming bit by bit. So I guess my big question to us, and I'm hoping in the future we would have like not just conversations, but perhaps workshops where we are sitting and talking about perhaps persons within the private sector and then especially the government sector as well. How might we, knowing the constraints that we have, actually work towards achieving the objectives that we want to achieve in the different spaces that we find ourselves in? Because the constraints are real. It is what it is. You can't change the mandate of the president. It's in the Constitution. So how might we still work around that, right? So perhaps in the future, let's shift the conversation a bit and utilize some of the skills in the room to help us figure out answers to the questions that we have. And with the skills that others like Edwin have displayed in the spaces that they find themselves, they've been able to make the change. So how can we learn from that and change where we are as well? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's a question that we wanted to think about, right? Possibly, like she said, we would have some workshops, possibly in the future, to discuss that. Well, let me just take one or two questions and then we are done. Another lady here? Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Eugenia and work with AFWA. So mine is not a question, it's just to contribute and not on the bigger scale like our senior man Ken was talking about, but just to answer the question that came in at the beginning. How government, how can we be agile or even use project management methodologies in the work that we do? And for me, based on experience, in GIPC, we run some projects apart from the many other functions that we have and the activities that we do. There are specific projects that we have with donor bodies. And from experience, we realized that apart from the many other things that we do, we have to actually have a team. And I picked this from MTN, William, when he was speaking. It looks like you have a whole division or a team that handles the projects, right? But in government, we don't have it like that. You'll be working as, say, I'm in research, right? So you have your normal duties that you do for research. But at the same time, you're expected to be working to deliver on the projects that you're supposed to be working on for the institution. So it's not like you have a separate team that is handling these projects. You're working on these projects at the same time, doing your normal functions and so on. So that is actually the issue. In a lot of the government settings, that is it. So the time that you are supposed to be allocating to delivering on these projects, going by the timelines, you realize that you sometimes go beyond the timelines that you set for yourself. And that is actually the whole crux of the matter, in my opinion. But for us at GIPC, because we've learned over the years, the team even that handles the projects and also have their normal duties that they do, we are able to kind of have a division where you know that for a period of time, some people are actually supposed to deliver based on the timelines that we have. And so some of the tasks that they would have to be doing normally will be shifted to another team to do. So I think when we start looking at it in that light where we have a specific team for these projects, then we can make some good on the timelines that we apportion to the projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so one of my panelists would want to...
I just wanted to add quickly, based on the feedback that we've received. It's not as if MTN is without constraints. Remember, when William in his delivery, he said, communicate, communicate, communicate. If you give me a whole piece of cake to eat, I can eat it in 2 days, maybe, but you want me to eat it in an hour, right? One of the principles of Agile is the fact that you encourage teamwork, cross-functional teamwork. Yes, we are project delivering departments largely, but we have cross-functional stakeholders. We don't work in isolation. We work with the network team, we work with IT, we work with finance, we work with almost across supply chain, almost across the entire, everybody in every department in MTN, right? But because we communicate and there's that active collaboration, the person in IT has their mandate, their game plan, right? But when there's a project, I mean, because we discuss and we know the constraints, I know you're not going to be available 100%. What time can you give me? How can I manage that? If there's any constraints, I go and tell William, Marshall, I have this problem. Can you get me an additional resource? Is there somebody who can come on board to help? So I think it's largely the communication and the collaboration that makes the teamwork work. Otherwise, you don't have it.
Thank you very much. So one friend of mine said that 2 heads. You know, sometimes we hear that 2 heads are better than 1, right? But it's not really true. 2 good heads are better than 1. So you can communicate in an organization. You may have very good people in the organization, but because of that collaboration, that synergy is not there, and it did not work. That's right. So I think I will just take one last question, and then we are done for the session.
I don't know if this question is valid, but I believe that PMI Ghana will be talking about how to integrate into the government sector, yara, but we have not seen that happen. And moreover, we have been talking about government working agile, or how they use agile methodology. And we are always discussing it in closed doors. And we have not seen how we as Project Management Institute are able to help the government. I know we are trying to do so. But my question is that those inside Government Institute who are already a member of PMI can also advise PMI chapter on how they can be able to integrate themselves into this system so that we can be an advisor or consultant to this body. So my question is to the government. I don't know what influence you have in your environment or government sector. I just want to ask, how do you think that PMI Ghana Institute can be able to help the government to go above these politics that we're talking about, to be able to help them to see how they can work in an agile way? I don't know, I'm just saying.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Jack would just want to briefly talk about it. In fact, in my mind, I wanted to escalate to President, but if he's going to bail him, that's fine. So please, let's listen to Jack.
Okay, so I will leave the PMI-specific influence on government to President or Emmanuel to deal with later. What I just wanted to say there is the fact that we're all professionals in this room, and we all work for an organization, be it the private sector or government. Now, I've worked in many parts of the world, and one key skill that I took away from my military days was hearts and minds. And when we go away somewhere, we try to understand the culture, the working practices, and we try and assimilate in order for us to be able to achieve our objectives and why we're there. Part of assimilating is ensuring that we do our part. So I've heard several mention of government, and what I want to say there is we're all professionals, and if we all contribute, if we all feel empowered in our organizations and we contribute, knowing that we've got to communicate well, we've got to collaborate well with our fellow teams and our cross-functional teams, and we've got to be leaders and not just leave it up to our leaders, I think exercising those particular agile behaviors would help us not just make a change, but force a change by ensuring that we out it. Everyone sees what is required. So I think it's something that we can all take away.
Thank you very much. And I think if I will be the last.
Very quickly, before maybe we hand over to President. GIPC, typically we have very few project managers, but we have a lot of project management thinking staff. They are familiar, and when you do come and engage us in our services, you'd find that we are different. We are very different in the way we offer our service, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we influence projects across our collaborating institutions. To be honest, within our circle of government agencies, investment promotion agencies related, we always find ourselves to be advisors, being called on to support, to be present, just to make sure that workings are done appropriately, to make sure that we guide the process. And that happens more often than not. In terms of supporting, I know there are many of you here that might be project management professionals in your institutions, but the challenge is they may not be empowered. They may be stifled. They may not be able to have their voice heard. If they know that PMI is behind them, if they know that they are within the greater circle of government project management officer, professionals who are familiar and there to support, they will be more comfortable to have their voice heard, to put things forward, to propose. Maybe there should be a congregation of those of us in government who are certified and also who are interested in being certified to have conversations led by those who have actually implemented and things have worked, so that we can learn, we can push, we can make strides, and we can speak. We can have our voice heard collectively and then empowered to have individuals also push the agenda that is required.
Thank you very much. I think that is very good. And President, you would want to briefly touch on that or later on? Okay, so let's invite our President to.
Right. Thank you very much. I think you all agree with me that the ability to identify that there is a problem is a major step towards the solution. So the board, both the past and the present, identified that the reason the government does not call PMI Ghana for any discussion is for the fact that we are not registered as a professional body. And that one has been a challenge, but we have taken steps. And as I speak to you, we have registered as a professional body. And right after this conference, we are going to operationalize that. And we begin to see some of the benefits coming out. Thank you.
A round of applause for PMI Ghana. So I think this will be the end of our panel discussion. And